Welcome to LaRel Smith of Chicago, Illinois, nonprofit home video and artworks creations. In this particular video, we will be looking at the Bible lies, in which actually concealed the African lion thing's face, in which we now see upon the lion's body in front of the Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramids. As we look at this theologically based racism, in which the Giza Sphinx origin of ancient Judaism, this would be the European Gentile nations, in which originally started the early United States government in English pilgrims, as English pilgrims. So we see the trading ships coming from Europe, in which has the English pilgrims in black hats, coats, tight shoes. And as we look at the early 13 colonies in America, started by the 10 European Gentile nations, in which the mistranslated King James Bible was actually all about. As we get into the same black hats, coats, tights, shoes wearing English pilgrims that started the early United States government, it's the same European faced Israelites in which we see praying at the Western Wall. As we look at the African continent, Sphinx 11 of ancient Judaism and Jerusalem, we're looking at the biblical Bible lie that of the European Gentile nations that occurred in 1611, as the King James of England appointed 72 Greek and Hebrew scholars to study the Islamic Aramaic Dead Sea Scrolls. Well, after they got finished studying the African Sphinx of Judea and Jerusalem, Qumran cave images or Dead Sea Scrolls, they, in theological racism, illegally renamed the 12 African continent tribes in which the African lion sphinx of Judea and Jerusalem ruled over into the 12 sons of Jacob. This totally concealed ancient Africa's African sphinx, in which we now see in front of the East African continent, Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramids. So as we look at the second illegal name change of the 12 sons of Jacob by the European Gentile nations, now we're talking about the English Bible, English textbooks, ABCs, and 0 through 9 alphabet of the European Gentile nations. So when we look at a European account of an Afro-American, of an African continent sphinx history, we must look at it with skepticism. In other words, if you want a direct historical account of what occurred in ancient Egypt, then we go directly to the African Sphinx in front of the Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramid. And that Sphinx of ancient Judaism actually ruled over the book of Genesis 2:7, normal-headed African Adamic race, in which populated the entire African continent from South Africa to North. Now, out of the two people that was created on the earth, or two Africans, put it that way, we have Genesis 1:26, elongated-headed African Adam. Then we have Genesis 2:7, normal-headed African Adam. So the normal-headed African Adam populated South Africa to North. Now, if we look at, if we draw 12 horizontal white lines across the African continent from east to west, and then view them with satellite imagery. So we're looking at 12 horizontal white lines upon the African continent as viewed with satellite imagery from outer space. What we will immediately see is that 12 African continent tribes is actually populating all of the 12 horizontal land surface lines, in which brings us into the terminology in which I call the original 12 African continent tribes, in which the Giza Sphinx ruled over in ancient Judaism. because of this theological racist agenda of the European Gentile nations that started the early United States government in black hats, coats, tights, and shoes. As they put the pyramids on the back of the dollar bill, but not the black man's face, in which we now see in front of the Isaiah 19:19 Giza pyramid. This would be tantamount to pure theological racism. So as the early 13 colonies in black hats, coats, tights, and shoes, we talk about the English Pilgrims, okay, that celebrate Thanksgiving or carving of the turkey every year, which celebrates their freedom from Europe. So the early 13 colonies that started the United States government took over the 11 and 12 era view Northeast African continent geographic land surface line era of Judea and Jerusalem. So this is where we use the Dome of the Rock window. Okay, we're looking at the Step Pyramid E, or the stone rectangular window frame. In the Dome of the Rock window, we see 5 blocks stacked on top of one another so that they form a step that you walk upon on the left and right side. So you stand back and look at those 5 blocks stacked on the left and right side on top of one another so that they form a step. You're actually looking at a black African Babylonian step pyramid civilization of Ham, globe earth step pyramid Mercator projection. Now notice that if you look at the step pyramid in the Dome of the Rock window, the octagonal building structure that has the Golden Dome in Jerusalem. Okay, on this outer wall you see that the step pyramid E image is actually 2 step pyramids connected at their bases, and which gives us a north, south, east, and west geographic vector of land surface area. Now, the ancient Babylonians, step pyramid civilization of Ham, actually measured huge square sections of the globe Earth. This is why when we look at the Masonic square of the square base of the Giza pyramids, where the black man's face upon the lion's body, in which was denied in theological racism within the 400-year-old mistranslated King James Bible by the European Gentile nations. As they took over Jerusalem and Judea, they took over the 11 and 12th era view Northeast African continent, Sphinx 11 land surface line. But see, when I was mentioned that the English textbook Bible has lost its credibility when we look at the aerial view 11 Northeast African continent land surface line, which if you look at it from outer space with satellite imagery, we have drawn 12 lines from South Africa to north. The 12th line is falling off the water in Northeast Africa. The 11th line is what the Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramids are. But if you look at the Google map enlarged image of the 11th line area, you're going to see it encompasses Sudan, Egypt, and Libya, and Judea. But on the globe map, Ezra 1:3 in the Bible says, "Let us go up to Jerusalem, which is located in the land of Judah." So when we look at the globe Earth satellite imagery, we're looking at the 11th line from outer space, and guess what? Way before we zoom into the Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramid, we are looking at a huge triangular desert land surface area representing an Egyptian royal headdress. And in the center, we see a dark shadow U face of the African Sphinx of ancient Judaism. Now, this is looking at the Northeast African continent from outer space with satellite imagery. Now, as we look at this archaeological, theological discovery in which the Nibiru Temple Mount aliens has made, and Laurel Smith of Chicago, Illinois, nonprofit home video and artworks creation, we say we will have to look at the images next to the Sphinx 11 face. So you can see this Google map image, which when it's displayed on the internet or YouTube, that Sphinx 11 face is in high contrast. It's as if someone is trying to conceal or hide the fact that the Sphinx of the Bible is the same black man's face upon a lion's body, in which we now see in front of the Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramid, Northeast African continent to the water. So that when we view the map, the Google map, and my images, you're going to see a Google map image of the Northeast African continent land surface, where you're going to see a huge yellow desert triangular area representing a royal Egyptian headdress in the 11th line. This is way before we zoom into the Isaiah 1919 Giza pyramids. So you say there's a dark shadow U face representing the Sphinx 11 face image of ancient Judaism. Now, why is this Sphinx 11 faces image so important? It's because he ruled over all of the book of Genesis 2:7 normal shape-headed African Adamic race that populated the entire African continent. So normal shape-headed black men in Genesis 2:7, alright, was ruled over by a black man's face upon a lion's body, in which we now see in front of the northeast African continent Egyptian pyramids. But this Sphinx was ruled over the normal shape-headed African Adamic race, right, that populated South Africa to north. So this is where we come up with the 12 African continent tribes, and now, in which was in theological racism renamed illegally into the 12 sons of Jacob in the book of Psalms 105th chapter 23rd verse. So the 12 sons of Jacob is wrongfully credited by the European Gentile nation as starting ancient Judaism, as they entered into ancient Egypt from the Babylonian steppe pyramid civilization of Ham. But all that is now under the water under the table, because we're going to look at a steppe pyramid in the dome of the rock outer octagonal building structure, outer wall, stone rectangular window frame. So this is what I call the steppe pyramid E. It's a black man steppe pyramid, y'all, in the dome of the rock window. And so when we see that there's stacking 5 blocks on top of one another, that they form a step that you walk up on the left and right side and stand back, that's the black man step pyramid, where they the square of the steps of the step pyramid was actually how they measured huge sections, square sections of the geographic globe Earth. So when we look at this dome of the rock step pyramid E image, we're talking about the black African steppe pyramid civilization of Ham. We're not talking about white, European, or none of that nonsense that the European Gentile nation placed within the mistranslated King James Bible. In fact, there's no Israel under Jerusalem if you look at the dome of the rock globe earth steppe pyramid Mercator projection. That's the same steppe pyramid E image. Now notice that we have a north, south, east, and west coordinate vector to the equatorial perimeter of planet Earth. So you have a cross in a circle. So this is the Ethiopian stone cross-shaped building structure 11 in Lalibela that actually represent the dome of the rock window steppe pyramid E image. So if you're looking at a rectangular building, horizontal, about 4 feet, 5 stories tall, then you got a turn one 5-story building, a rectangular building, vertical. Okay, so that's the look down upon it from a helicopter. You're looking at a cross-shaped building structure. So when you go back to Africa, to Ethiopia, that's the Ethiopian lion sphinx of ancient Judaism that we now see a black man face upon the lion's body in front of the Giza pyramid. So now we see that this dome of the rock structure is an African structure, not a European, not a Jesus or Jehovah. They both are. If you look at the white image of Jesus, okay, raise his robe, but he has a penis underneath there. This is a false prophet, man-based Lord God image that Afro-Americans are worshiping. So you look at the old bearded man Jehovah image, raise his white robe up, he has a penis. So if you're worshiping a man that has a penis underneath his robe as your God, you're in theological error. This is news to the Afro-Americans all around the world. Whereas the real aliens now, that created the first elongated African Adam, they had no penis. In fact, they're about 4 feet tall. They stand about 4 feet tall. They have big black oval-shaped eyes, 3 fingers and 1 thumb on each hand, and no hair. But they had long watermelon-shaped heads. So you're going to see these videos of these aliens next to the Sphinx as we review the Northeast African continent. So I discovered this H-2925 alien that appeared in a secret underground military installation, Area 51. So this alien has a long watermelon-shaped head. He's dark brown skinned and 4 feet tall, big black oval-shaped eyes, and no sex organ. He has 3 fingers and 1 thumb on each hand. So a 4 feet tall alien that created the with the long waddling shaped head. Now get that right first of all, the facts. So who was in Ezekiel's Old Testament glowing, ruling the world like your foe? It was the same elongated-headed alien god, H2925. So when we discover the same elongated-headed African alien god, we're looking at the South Africa. So we're going to draw, we're going to look at it, the Google map, and we're going to put Africa in the blue bar-shaped earth, right? Now we're going to draw 12 lines from South Africa to north. So the Sphinx is in the 11th and 12th line. That's Judea and Jerusalem of Ezra 1:3. But the God that created the normal-headed African Adam and Sphinx, okay, because we talking about black people with normal-shaped head. So that's the second man in Genesis 2:7, the second Adam, that populated Africa from South Africa to north. So this is the where we get the terminology in which I call the original 12 African continent tribes. Now, the black man that was on earth before Genesis 2:7, normal-headed African Adam was created, normal-shaped-headed African Adam, that populated South Africa to north, in which the black man faced upon the land's body ruled over, before the King James of England theological racism changed the 12 African continent tribe into the 12 sons of Jacob. That concealed your African continent Sphinx history. Whereas today, if they call you a nigger, you're going to get angry. No, don't get angry. Because a little I is nick for nigger, a big I is nigh for Niger. So there's a Niger River in the 9th line. Remember, 12 lines from South Africa to north. Jerusalem is the 12th, Judea is the 11th, right? And that's where we see the Sphinx 11th phase. Way before we zoom in, if we're looking at the Northeast African continent with satellite imagery from outer space. So this Libya and Ethiopia is in that 10th line, you get it? But the Giza Sphinx is the 11th line. So ancient Judaism was all about the normal-shaped-headed African Adam being transported above the atmospheric region of planet Earth in Ezekiel's glowing wilderness like your foes. By who? The elongated-headed alien god one, or which I call the H2925 alien. But let me go back and retract. You see that there's a 4 feet tall, big black oval-shaped alien that has no penis between its legs. In fact, this is what they call elongated-headed Yakub. So it's connected to the Babylonian stealth pyramid civilization of Ham, H2925 alien, that created the first elongated-headed African Adam. Now, the black men that was created in Genesis 1:26, they had long watermelon-shaped heads, like King Tut, Pharaoh, Akhenaten, but they no longer exist upon the surface of planet Earth. They are up in King Solomon's orbiting cube in the 6-point star. That's the cube of New Jerusalem. So it's a black cube, not a white man's cube, not a European cube, not a Eurocentric Temple Mount cube. Remember, Europe and the Bible is one, okay? And they lied about Africa and the black man faced upon the lion's body of ancient Judaism, the lion Sphinx of Genesis 49, chapter 8 verse. But if we go back to find out that the first 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, if we draw them from South Africa, from east to west, okay, that's where the elongated-headed alien 2. Now, it looked like the alien god one face on the Temple Mount. So we talking about, look at the African continent on the blue basketball-shaped earth with satellite imagery. So you draw 1, 2, 3, 4 lines from South Africa. So as you rise up on the land surface of Africa, and now get up in outer space and look at those 4 lines, you're going to see an elongated-headed alien 2. That's an African continent alien that was in Ezekiel's glowing wilderness like your foe. And I'm showing it on my video. Now let's go back to the 11th line in Northeast Africa. That's what Judea is in Ezra 1:3. Let us go up to Jerusalem, the 12th line, which is located in Judah, the land of Judah. So this is why ancient Judaism was all about the elongated-headed alien god one, or the 4 feet tall, big black oval-shaped eyes, willing and will like Old Testament glowing, circular UFO alien, as they educated the normal-headed African Adam. So when I say normal-shaped-headed black man, that's Genesis 2:7, African Adamic race, that populated South Africa to north. This is where, if if we look at it with satellite imagery, we see nothing but African tribes living in each of the 12 lines. And which brings us back to the terminology in which I call the original 12 African continent tribe, in which the African things ruled over before theological racism carried out by the European Gentile nation through the King James of England 400 years ago in 1611, when he appointed 72 Greek and Hebrew scholars. This theological racist move illegally changed the 12 African continent tribes in your King James Bible that you read in your Afro-American churches into the 12 sons of Jacob. A second illegal renaming transferred your African continent history and black men face upon a land and body in front of the Giza pyramid. It concealed all of that by second renaming illegally the 12 sons of Jacob into the 12 tribes of Israel.